It is 5 o'clock in the morning, October 21st, in the year 2017. So I'm going to share with you first thing, first thing today, what's on my mind. So yeah, I'm not alone in thinking that there is some sort of a quickening of sorts taking place now, and people growing spiritually or seeking to make a big leap. And this is coming from somewhere else. Now, I'm really hesitant to get on board certain narratives that other people are putting out. But that doesn't mean that there isn't truth in some of the things that are being said out there. I think there's certainly some outrageous claims that people have made or are thinking is what's going to happen. And I think a lot of us are on the same page with questioning both the New Age and religious rapture theory. But their interpretation of that, I've said this before, their interpretation of that seems to be potentially symbolic of the soul trying to escape this matrix, also known as the soul prison. So the physical rapture that a lot of people are spending their time thinking about, and there's even talk about 144,000. Now that is fairly widespread. And when people start bringing up numerology, Maurice Cotterell is a researcher that I respect. Never have spoken to him before, but he researches the solar cycles, the long count solar cycles, and he hypothesizes on some of the deeper Mayan interpretations of the sun and its impact on our world. And he is the author of a book called Future Sciences. So he also talks about that from a numerological perspective as well. So, what is the truth? What is fiction? How do we accrue the wisdom to know the difference when there's all this information that's just coming at us? Coming at us. Do we have chakras? Do we not have chakras? Is this about 144,000 or is it a little bit more complicated than that? Um, are we here to evolve as souls or are we here to claim our souls back? Are we connected as souls, part of a collective? Are there various soul group families? Uh, what one can look at from a certain perspective, competing, for their influence to change this reality, or maybe that's just how it looks from one perspective, but it's really something more natural on a cosmic level than that which we can understand. Just like our bodies are functioning in a natural way within this reality, and we may not understand how our bodies function in a particular way, why we have infections, and why we have certain immune responses that are absolutely necessary. So I think there's a lot of people out there looking for answers. I could see parallels. One of the things I was going to mention is the importance if you feel called to shake up your own routine. I think that's really why I moved off the grid, to be able to shake up my own routine and go into my own little space on a deeper level than that which I have in the past. And right now, without working on a regular basis for a particular website or going anywhere on a regular basis, it might be easier for me to tune in to certain things or focus on certain things. But we are still tied in to a wireless biological web of noise of the collective. Even a person like me that can go off the grid is still tied in energetically, consciously, to the greater world around me and other human beings around me, as well as thousands of miles away from me. There's tuning in, tuning out, and the wisdom to know the difference and when we should do one or the other. There's certain things to tune into. There's certain things to tune out of. That's the self-responsibility that comes with greater awareness. So some of us are being hit with a lot more awareness than what we think we were hit with in the past, or what we experienced, what we went through during other periods in physical time. Now we're somewhere else. So some of us that are at a certain level of understanding or being able to perceive certain things, we're experiencing certain things. And because of the internet and this feedback loop of people putting back out also into the internet what's going on with them and sharing their ideas, we have this our own means of data gathering and observation. uh, Real-time statistics in periods in which there are more people waking up to certain things. It's very, very subtle, whatever it is that we're waking up to, but there are periods in which it seems that we have the ability to access higher levels of information. These periods coincide also with manufactured events, a lot of different things that could distract us. And we look at the world, if we're looking at the world through the lens of the news feed, it is nothing but a very troubled world on the edge of collapse. To actually see the totality of what is reality, we got to be able to see literally and feel beyond the news feed. And so that's why I say being able to see the patterns, where there's something going on within your own consciousness, and then you come across somebody on YouTube and they're giving you the information that you need at that moment. That is not by accident. That is not by accident. It's also not by accident for someone like me, who is living off of not very much, to receive a donation during a particular period of the year or perhaps a particular number of years where it's coming at just the right moment. And to take this time to say thank you, Pam, for your donation. And I do think that it would be a good use of energy occasionally here and there for people to direct their energy on a collective level towards something positive for someone, for their life to receive some positive things if it's going through a period of turbulence. So let's send Pam some good energy and back energy back to all of you as well that are listening right now. I think it's more important, personally, to talk about things only from a perspective I feel comfortable speaking about those things, not delving into things and people that I'm not familiar with. I think that's something I should stay away from and just stick with what I believe is real, what I've learned from my own experiences, and I know there's more to share, and to not default into sharing other people's information, and also not default into seeing my YouTube channel as one thing. And it's been years since this channel started. I've been through a lot of journeys. The most important commentary and information on this channel, I think, is of a spiritual nature. I have other passions. This channel has a history. I have a history. But I think a lot of this comes back down to the central thing. And everything else is periphery. And I think people forget that. There's also the sense of mortality. As we become more aware, that we have to be able to go through the fear. It's like there are these default programs as we start becoming more aware and clear that are there to scare us back in the limited consciousness that we were at before. So by becoming aware of our own mortality and how fast life moves, yeah, we can start becoming afraid of growing older. Or as we grow older, becoming afraid of these diseases and cancers, becoming afraid of passing on from the body. It's amazing. We hear about these people that are dying of these diseases in their late 70s and 80s, but we do have a period of people dying even younger in some cases. But even 1,000 years ago, I believe I have an ancestor that was writing out poetry, living off the grid in the East, if you will, in another time and place. Might as well be a scene from Star Wars, but really just 1,000 years ago. And he lived, I believe, to be the age of 78 or 79, which is about the same age that my grandfather in this generation lived to, or this day and age. I believe 78 years old. And so that's very interesting. So when we're going to go, but the average human has a average lifespan, and there's a lot of people trying to fight that. And I think that we need to have our heads screwed on straight. Because I do think that life continues, but we go through this memory wipe each time. There's a part of us that's tapped into this greater level body of knowledge of consciousness as to where we were before this or where we're even going. There could be a part of us that's tapped into just enough of that information, that soul data. And we may have this ability, like a transmitter receiver within us, to tap into some sort of a record system or something that feeds us just enough, but just enough information, because there's a firewall there. And it's our current biological state in this current fallen world and reality with all these environmental things around us that can send us away from the truth of who and what we are. But we've got to recenter on something that's real. So yes, for myself, this is a way of life. And living in cities most of my life, and being very fond, even as a teenager, of the Portland skyline, the big city nights, when the lights go down in the city, and all the other nostalgic feelings that go along with these skyscrapers. Very much a part of my psyche within this lifetime. That's something that a lot of people don't understand. I've only been living on my own acre for about a year, year and a half. I still feel like I'm healing from being born into this reality in a urban city and encountering a lot of lost souls that at times seem to be in this reality sharing the space with us, to throw us obstacles and in some cases tempt us off the path. I don't believe that all the people that are here to grow their soul or even necessarily have souls. But for whatever reason, we are in this level of the matrix, of the game. And so evolving beyond this matrix doesn't come easy. Okay, we've got to overcome the codes of this matrix and these limitations. And there are people at different levels that are sharing their knowledge, and that's great. We've got to come to understand that not all of us are going to be singing to the same tune or going to have the same personality. We certainly don't have the same astrological uh, expression, if you will. Not just the sign, but down to the minute and place that you were born. We are each individuals. Our fingerprint highlights how unique we are. I believe our soul, our energetic expression of what it is, also is very, very unique. But there's something that ties a lot of souls together that are on this planet now. Absolutely. And what we're facing a society that is suffering from a programming that we are breaking away from. We do believe that there is knowledge within, gnosis within, and that we have something to contribute to this world, knowledge-wise, on an individual level, putting together a puzzle piece, a life's work, a book, or a documentary, or a series of videos over a lifetime. Like there are those of us that are alive on the planet now that are involved in sharing information. And we may be one out of so many people within our community or within a certain region. Who knows what's going on, but I'm not the only person having this experience of sharing information and going against the grain. And knowing that my entire lifetime is about this. It's not about the stock market. It's not about sales. It's not about like having this goal of having a boat or a certain type of home or 5 years or a wife. It's beyond those things that a lot of humans identify with. And there's certain things that I identify with as a human with goals and material desires and even ego, wanting to be the one that that warned the masses of how it would go down and all these other ego trips that are of the material world. It has just been a massive transition, not only in the last few years, but the last few months and last few weeks. But I'm not disillusioned. I'm not disillusioned that I am God or that I am, uniquely special. I see it as answering the call in which many people on the planet have chosen not to. And if that makes someone unique, then in that sense, I am unique. In that sense, others are unique. If they're choosing to be some of the few on the planet using their voice to speak against the evil of this world, but to also introduce ideas of higher consciousness that can transform it to something higher. Okay. And I believe that's what's important, that we overcome the challenges and the obstacles before us. We continue to pursue this great work, if you will, as it has been referred to by many people throughout time and space, to fulfill our soul's purpose, because it is not about the short term outcome, where we see the results of our seeds of knowledge that we have spread. The effect of spreading ideas and knowledge of a certain particular caliber and soul essence could take many, many generations for that knowledge to have an impact on that reality. So we need to see things from a larger perspective, beyond the perspectives that we've been taught, with finite lifetimes, periods of a few weeks or a few months where people want to see instantaneous success, rewarded by the God of this world, without looking for the true creator that exists beyond those that are seen as the gods of this world. And that's not an easy path to walk. That is not an easy, it's very, very awkward to live in a reality with so many quote unquote churches where people purport to do God's work, yet at the same time shun others that are seeking to serve God and serve others, if they don't fly under the flag of their particular religion, Bible, book. Unfortunately, this is something that America is still plagued by. But the essence of the positivity of what a church is seen to be, a charitable organization or a sanctuary, or a place where people can come together and things of that nature. For example, there's a church where there's a lot of things revolving around that church, and a lot of travelers, and a lot of people down and out, sometimes people in need to park an RV. And so, to a certain degree, churches have become a sanctuary for multiple people throughout time, and that is a very good thing. But the idea of a sanctuary or a safe spot or a place for human beings to basically have some sort of relief from a very troubled world, we need to expand upon that idea outside the box of churches and government institutions. And people should be able to rely on each other and trust each other, and heal from a world in which there's so much backstabbing, and so much pain. I'd like to see a different society in a few years. People in my community, people in my state of Colorado that I can trust in the years to come. I'd like to see some positive things, even group barbecues, things of that nature. Positive things, for example, in the San Luis Valley. a flat area that actually would be pretty decent for a conscious community to come together. But people have to want to that and create that and not expect it to revolve around a few people to do the basic work. For many, many years, I recommended that people make the attempts to learn what it takes to live together in peace without police forces and big banks. And for the most part, people aren't doing that. And that is a derivative, really, of where their souls are at. And a lot of souls are here to learn about concepts like tyranny, imprisonment. Not all souls are here in this earth plane now with a desire for freedom, much less the willingness to do the work to free their body, mind, or spirit. Or in this case, in many of these discussions that are being had on the internet, and I've downloaded quite a few videos just to hear the perspectives of others, to free our soul from this plane of reality. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. And that's what a lot of people are vibing to. But see, in doing so, we are going to have to keep our eye on the ball and stay with the truth and steer away from individuals and information sources that are going to stroke our egos. And some of you already know what I'm talking about with that. And there are people out there that are acting like they're on the spiritual awareness game, in which they're not. So, as I said in a recent video, I'm seeing a big wake up call more so now than a few years ago, on YouTube and other places, to the fake spiritual teachers that a lot of humans are drawn to by the hundreds of thousands. The very fact that some people like Ramtha and others are running successful cults, which is basically what quite a few of them are, that are not on the positive side of a group coming together with a common purpose or understanding, but are on the dark side. There are some people that prefer to throw money and resources at people that are very talented at hypnotizing their audiences. And so it's just something to become aware, not so much to attack someone per se, as it might be seen to be infighting, but really trying to warn people out there on the internet of the dangers of becoming too mesmerized by anyone. We should support each other to a certain degree. And there is an economy that is outside the box of the corporate economy, where people help each other with information, ideas, sell books, documentary films. The independent media is one element of it. Independent documentary filmmaking and other things, including some aspects of energy work, is a part of it. But of course, then we have the masqueraders in the spiritual communities and the alternative media. And as I've made many, many videos, I've expressed this warning many, many times. The deceivers are all around us now, online, that are supposedly coming from the spiritual communities and the alternative media. It's possible that there is a wake up call. We'll call it a micro shift or a wake up within a larger cycle. And I do believe there are cycles and periods in which people seem more awake and more asleep. And I've actually correlated, in my view, these highs and lows with perceived consciousness, apathy, empathy cycles, right? And I do believe that I've noticed these cycles as literally riding the solar cycle. On average, every 11 years, we have a solar maximum period, which usually takes place for a year or several years. Sometimes there are several peaks within a solar cycle or solar maximum, or a period in which there are more sunspots causing more coronal mass ejections, causing more geomagnetic storms as the CMEs hit our Earth's magnetic field. As we go through periods of silence, however, a less active sun, I think there are periods in which some of us develop a greater clarity, when there's a certain level of quietness to the mind. That's why there could be certain events in our lives, right? In our own personal lives at the micro. There could be things trying to sap our energy, attack us, and distract us to get us to focus away from that moment or those days or even those hours in which we have the ability to raise our soul's voltage. That's what I'm vibing to. And that's why I mentioned earlier, if you feel if you feel called to wake up early in the morning, right? And either meditate, read a book, write, or watch a lot of videos or listen to a lot of podcasts that's going to bring you to that moment of clarity. And then also of following the clues and cues. Do what you need to do, whatever you feel will work to get a night's sleep. We need to protect ourselves in our dream space from hijack and infiltration. And I'll say it again, I've received more positive feedback from the audience regarding spiritual commentary in the last few weeks, in the last few months, than it seems that I have in more than a few years. I tend to look at things as things that happen for a reason, and I'm always looking for patterns. Where there might be a lot of a certain type of activity. Let's say there's a certain type of activity or energy that's negative, and I'm experiencing more of that. And then I start looking at correlating factors. And it's not that all of the full moons will bring that out, but now I know that full moons bring out strange marches in towns like Charlottesville, and also strange like troll-like behaviors, and also strange like behaviors, and even some of the people that live off the grid that are affected by the full moon energy. And I've seen that as well. I haven't talked about that in detail or certain other things because it hits a little close to home. But I've absolutely seen across the board, from the internet to people here off the grid to observing the news in Portland. There are periods in which we're all affected by the same energy. And some people might go into a more intuitive, spiritual, open space, and others act like they have been straight up hijacked or possessed for either a moment or an extended period in time. And so the last few months have taught me things, right, that I didn't necessarily know 6 months ago or a year ago. So much of what I've learned about archonic interference, also known as, spiritual parasites, or for some, they believe that they can only call them demons. And for years, I've always talked about how this little war of the words, the English words, is really distractionary. You want to go to a realm of understanding to where you go beyond words, to where in spirit you see what it is, where it's beyond the language. This is not a new concept. There are many reasons why you should be able to go beyond rigid belief systems and words to understand an idea whose time has come, an idea that is beyond words, that is something that you feel on a deeper sensory level. All right, I'm going to end this early morning podcast, and I will be coming back with more.